So this is interesting. Cincinnati almost had a backup quarterback that they were ready to sign and most likely going to get from the Cowboys, but then ended up losing him at the last possible second. So from the sound of things, Nick Eatman wrote for the Dallas team site, the Cowboys got pretty lucky that Cooper Rush returned. He was getting close to taking another offer with either the Raiders or the Bengals, but I don't think he ever really wanted to leave. And sometimes just comfort alone is hard to beat. Cooper Rush is a solid backup that is a proven winner. Obviously, last season when Dak Prescott went down, Cooper Rush came in and showed Dallas that, listen, they didn't really need Dak Prescott. They could really win without having Dak Prescott. Dallas re-signed him to a 2-year, $5 million deal, which meant if he signed with Cincy, he probably would have signed for exactly the same contract, a 2-year, $2.5 million deal, both years. Now, to be honest, this is kind of disappointing just because it looks like, Cincy will not be bringing back Brandon Allen. So the backup quarterback race is still on. And they're still going to have to figure out someone who can back up Joe Burrow, who can also win if needed. Based on what hearing your guys' responses down below, it seems like Brandon Allen is not the guy. As if Burrow goes down, you guys do not believe you can win a game with Brandon Allen. Which, to be honest, it makes sense. So, with Cooper Rush off the board, and a couple other quarterbacks off the board too, Gardner Minshew signed a contract recently. Jacoby Brissett signed a contract. Who is actually left? Well, if we go to all positions, quarterback, then we go to available. Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, Tom Brady, Teddy Bridgewater, Mason Rudolph, Joe Burrow, Blaine Gabbert, Chase Daniels, Trevor Siemian, Brian Hoyer, Brandon Allen. That's the market right now. So, with Cooper Rush now off the market, it's kind of disappointing because, again, like I said, getting him for, $2.5 million was actually not that bad, and he could have been a nice backup for a couple years just in case, just in case the crazy scenario happens that Joe Burrow did go down. Knock on wood, boys. Got knock on wood for that one. It would have been nice to have that, kind of safety blanket in that. And overall, don't get me wrong, Cooper Rush isn't the greatest. 56.5 overall grade, 55.9 passing, 54.8 rushing. So he's not like a crazy amazing quarterback, but he's a pretty serviceable backup. Now, obviously, this upcoming draft, there are quarterbacks that Cincy can take as a backup quarterback later on. Of course, though, you kind of want to have somebody who is, in that ballpark range of a veteran who's already played in the NFL, who can kind of take, be put into any system, any offense, and at least be able to do serviceable work. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. This isn't really a problem I see too much for Cincy, as, again, is a backup quarterback. As long as Joe stays upright, everything should be good. Quarterbacks they could take in this draft, though, is Stetson Bennett from Georgia. He went from a walk-on to a Heisman Trophy winner. Clayton Tune is another really solid player they could take in the 7th round. Keep in mind, all these picks I'm talking about here are 6th and 7th round picks. So Stetson Bennett is a 6th, 7th round pick. Clayton Tune is a 6th, 7th round pick. Malik Cunningham, another 6th or 7th round pick. And then, obviously, Jaron Hall is the last guy. So, if they are trying to look for a backup quarterback, they could go with that. Or they could bring back Brandon Allen. Again, I know, that's not the sexiest pick for a lot of Bengals fans, as, again, based on what I've seen in my comic sections, not many people will love him, but Pro Football Focus definitely does like him. 74.9 overall grade, 71.1 passing, 65.7 rushing. He's, based on what Pro Football Focus says, a pretty serviceable backup. So he can get the job done even if, he's not too crazy. Which actually last year was actually his best year because God, 2020 was absolutely horrendous. 2020 was okay, decent. Fumble is not something you want to see very high grade-wise, but maybe you do need a new backup. maybe going with somebody else might have been a good idea. Now looking at the rest of his grades, yeah, so free agency, guys. Free agency is a beautiful thing. So my guess is, if you don't focus on the draft with this, right, then I'm gonna, I wouldn't recommend wasting a draft pick on a quarterback. I really wouldn't. I mean, this is a position that really is the last thing you really focused on. I say you bring in, maybe bring in, you could bring in Teddy Bridgewater for like league minimum, very, very cheap deal. I wouldn't be against the idea. Chase Daniels, he is 36 years old. He could just be like a guy who sits on the bench, gets veteran minimum at like 1.08 million, nothing guaranteed. Maybe Gabbard. I don't know. I know Matt Ryan's going to cost an arm and a leg. He's not worth it. Carson Wentz wants an arm and a leg. He's not going to be worth it. Brady obviously is retired, so that's not going to work. Mason Rudolph is nobody. Mason Rudolph is a absolute bag of dirt on the ground, so there's nothing there. Joe Flacco, no. Come on now. But yeah, so Brian Hoyer, as we call him, Brian Handoff in the business, because all he does was hand the ball off when he played for Cleveland. Nate Sudfeld, the man who propelled Doug Peterson from getting fired from the Eagles. Nathan Peterman. Yeah, this market's not looking that great. I'm going with get Teddy Bridgewater as a backup on league minimum and walk away with your hands clear. That's pretty much how I'm looking. But guys, definitely tell me down below your thoughts and opinions. I'll see you guys next one. Peace out.